Hey everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another episode of the mel0n Review. Today is going to be part one, our unboxing and first impressions of a mouse I have been honestly dreaming of covering here on the channel. Today we're going to be unboxing and checking out the PWNAGE StormBreaker. Now this is kind of a grail mouse for me, I guess you could say. I remember hearing a lot about this mouse when it first released, and then there was the whole Linus Tech Tips situation where they didn't take the skate covers off and said the mouse was slow, and that was just a whole storm about this mouse. But I've actually been wanting to cover this mouse for the proper reasons for a very long time, because number one, it's one of the first magnesium mice that actually ever hit the market, and on top of that, this mouse also has a lot of other really cool features that not a lot of people really talk about for whatever reason. So this mouse has definitely been one I've been wanting to cover for a very long time, and it's kind of my grail mouse, as I mentioned before, and I'm very excited to finally get a chance to take a look at it. Now before we get into it, I did want to say a huge thank you to PWNAGE, who was kind enough to send out the StormBreaker for review. I greatly appreciate it. As always, timestamps will be available down in the video description, and this video will be fully subtitled for you. And as always with this channel, this is my part one unboxing and first impressions. I will have a second part to this review coming in a couple weeks after I have some time to do some more in-depth testing on the StormBreaker, and I will have a teardown video following that review as well. So be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss my full review of the StormBreaker, and of course the full teardown of the StormBreaker as well. All right, now with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the StormBreaker is available in two colors. There is black and there is a white color. Now the black is more of like a apple space gray, and the white is more of like a pearlescent white, but white and black regardless. Now there were some limited edition colorways. I don't know if any of them are still available. I believe the red is still popping around, but there's a bunch of other limited edition colorways that there may be occasional stock of. But for the most part, if you want the StormBreaker, you're pretty much only going to find it in black and white. In terms of packaging, the box feels very premium. The box kind of opens up the front kind of like a treasure chest and reveals the StormBreaker on the inside. Now I'll put the StormBreaker aside for now. All right, now underneath the StormBreaker, we have this little pyramid receiver that has 2 and 4K polling, but I'll talk about the implementation for that in the full review. But I do like it's kind of a little pyramid that's really cool to see. We have a pretty standard looking USB A to C paracord cable with covers for both ends. The cable does look to be a little on the thicker side. I would probably say maybe slightly smaller than the Vaxi cables we've seen, but that's fine regardless. We have a full set of grip tape included in the box as well. Now this grip tape does actually feel pretty okay. Again, with stock grip tapes, they're usually just all right. They're not as good as third-party grips, of course. And then we also have this little screwdriver included in the bag here. Now it's a bit of a unique screwdriver with how it's designed. I actually really like this kind of untwisty design. This is really cool to see. Now you can use this to disassemble the unit, or of course adjust the sensor position, which is one of the bigger features here on the StormBreaker, but I'll talk about that a little later. Now PWNAGE was also kind enough to send out a set of their glass skates for the StormBreaker, which is really nice of them to do so thank you very much to them. I'll do a little bit of testing on those as well, and I'll cover those in the full review if there's anything notable about their performance. Now I did want to take a moment here just to appreciate just how gorgeous the StormBreaker is. I have used a lot of mice in my time, and this mouse is in a league of its own in terms of appearance. The only words that come to mind to describe this mouse is work of art. Like from an appearance standpoint, this mouse looks absolutely gorgeous. It just, the way the light hit it, it just looks so gorgeous. I can only imagine how good those limited edition colorways looked, because they had a lot of really cool colors for that one. But even this StormBreaker, just being a standard black mouse, just looks so nice. It is in a league of its own in terms of appearances. Now, of course, appearances aren't everything. As I mentioned before, the StormBreaker is a magnesium mouse, and this is a full body magnesium mouse. Now, this mouse is advertised as coming in at around the 50 gram range, but my unit is weighing in more around 50.8 grams, which is within spec considering a +1 to 2 gram ratio, which we commonly see on mice like this. But honestly, this is more in the closer to the 50 gram ratio that I've seen a lot of other mice before, which is really nice to see. So it does come in within spec, of course. Now, one really weird thing about the StormBreaker is that this mouse looks like it's really heavy, if that makes sense. Like, it has that metallic sheen to it where you pick it up and you expect it to be really heavy, but this mouse actually feels really light. Like 50 grams is obviously like pretty good for a mouse like this, but it feels a lot lighter than 50 grams. Maybe because it's an ergo and I'm so common to holding like heavier ergos around like the 60 to 70 gram range, but this mouse feels so light. It feels in my hands a lot lighter than 50 grams, but that is maybe a little bit of a trick of the eyes here, but it does feel very solid overall. Now, in terms of shape, the StormBreaker is a right-handed ergo mouse. It is coming in at 122 millimeters long, 64 millimeters wide, and 42 millimeters high. Now, in my 7.5 by 5 inch hands, this mouse is actually surprisingly comfortable. Again, I really do like ergo mice. This is a common shape for me to hold, but it actually does feel really comfortable. Even this magnesium material actually feels pretty grippy, which is surprising and which I wasn't really expecting. And the grooves in the surface kind of allow you to kind of stick your hands into it a little bit, which is really nice for gripability, but it actually feels very solid. It reminds me a lot of the original Pulsar X-Lite for some reason. I know the shape is different, but it reminds me a lot of how that mouse felt in my hand, which is kind of interesting, but the mouse does feel very solid. Now, the StormBreaker, aside from its magnesium build quality, has one other really cool feature that I mentioned already, but this is a feature I have not seen in ages, and I don't think there's any other mice on the market right now that have this feature available on their mice, and that is an adjustable sensor position. Now, despite this feature not really being that common on a lot of mice nowadays, one of the really cool things you can do with an adjustable sensor is you can kind of adjust how the StormBreaker is going to react to your aim style. Now, what I mean by this is that you can adjust the sensor positioning where it's going to feel the most balanced, or you can put it more towards the top to have more of an emphasis on fingertip or wrist aim, or you can put the sensor all the way to the bottom to have a more consistent, more arm focused aiming style. You can heavily impact how this mouse feels in your hand due to this adjustable sensor, which is a really, really cool thing to see. Again, there's going to be a lot of variance this depending on your aim style and how you hold different mice and that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of things about this, which I'll talk about more in the full review. But this is a really, really cool feature that, again, I have not seen in a very, very long time, and something very, very cool to see here on the StormBreaker. Now, in terms of specifications, the StormBreaker is using a 3395 sensor for the main sensor, and is using a Nordic 52840 for the MCU, which is the pretty common bread and butter combo we see on pretty much all the high performance mice on the market. It is using Omrons for the main switches. Now, these are binned Omrons if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't know what the side buttons are, or the scroll wheel encoder, or the scroll wheel switches, but I will find that out for the full review. But that's pretty much it for what's included here on my first impressions of the PWNAGE StormBreaker itself. I'm going to go do a couple runs of Kovacs to do some first impressions on the performance, and I'll be back for some final thoughts. Alrighty, now in terms of performance first impressions, honestly, the StormBreaker actually performed really well. I haven't really toyed with it too much. I am only leaving at 1K pulling, and I haven't done anything to the adjustable sensor. I just left it in the middle for the first part of this review. I'll do testing on the other sensor positions for the full review, but based just off of first impressions, this mouse actually feels really solid. I was a little concerned about the gripability of the StormBreaker due to the magnesium shell, but it's actually quite grippy, and all the gaps in the design actually make it very easy for your fingers to kind of go into that, so you have a really comfortable grip on the mouse itself. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to use the grip tape that it came with the StormBreaker. I'll test it for the review, but I have a feeling I'll be able to use the mouse without that for the most part. But again, this being an ergo mouse is my preferred grip style. The size of the mouse is really good for my hand size as well, and it just feels very, very comfortable overall. It's just a very solid performing mouse just based off of a couple runs on Kovacs. Again, I have a lot of testing to do in terms of the different sensor positions and that kind of stuff, and I'll talk about that in my full review. But based off first impressions, the StormBreaker feels really, really solid. I'm really excited to see how this mouse fares over long-term testing, but that of course will be a topic for the full review. Alrighty, well that is pretty much everything for my unboxing and first impressions of the PWNAGE StormBreaker. I'm really, really glad this mouse kind of lived up to my expectations of this being a very unique and a very, very cool mouse. I know I said it before, but this is kind of a grail mouse for me to cover on the channel, and I'm really glad that this mouse is living up to the hype. The magnesium construction, the weight of it, and this adjustable sensor is just such a cool thing to see in a mouse that I haven't seen in such a long time, and all of it combined makes a very, very unique package. And of course, based off first impressions, this mouse does feel very, very solid, but I have a lot of testing to do in terms of the different sensor positions, the 2K polling implementation, and a bunch of other things I want to test as well on the StormBreaker. So as I said at the beginning of the video, be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss my full review of the StormBreaker coming out in a couple weeks, once I have some more time to do some more in-depth testing on all the features of this mouse. But that is going to be everything for today. Huge thank you again to PWNAGE for sending out the StormBreaker for review. I greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in part 2 of the mel0n review of the PWNAGE StormBreaker in a couple weeks, and I hope I'll see you guys then. Peace.